It is. It's time for KP's Video News. KP's Video News, y'all. KP's Video News, y'all. KP's Video News, y'all. Right. KP's Video News, y'all.
That's right. It's time for KP's Video News, y'all. You know what it does, y'all. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Golden Mike Award. Golden Mike Award, yeah, winner 2021. All right, folks. Just having a little fun here with my new microphone, trying to see if I can get some different sound. I've ran through, I've tried 1, 2, 3, third one. Anyway, I think I kind of like this one. It's a little Golden Mike Award, the Golden Mike Award. Kind of like, I guess I kind of like the way it looked anyway. But, yes, sir. That's my baby. Anyway, this is a story. This first story here was about Atatiana Ali. Well, take that back, folks. I'm sorry. Atatiana Jefferson that was murdered by a Dallas-Fort Worth cop. So right now, what's going on is Aaron Dean, the former Fort Worth police officer that was charged with the murder of Atatiana Jefferson, now knows when his trial will begin. On Tuesday morning, a judge ruled jury selection in the case would begin on January 4th, and the actual trial would start on January 10th. So they're getting ready to go ahead on and get this thing done. So the attorneys representing Dean are expected to file for a change of venue. Any remotion requests from them or prosecutors will be heard on December 6th. So they're trying to move the trial. They're trying to move it. And Dean's case was among many that were delayed when the coronavirus pandemic caused courts in Texas and across the country to postpone jury trials. Today, there are more than 100 defendants scheduled to go before the judge. Dean was among the group. Dean, who recently turned 37, resigned. Time out, folks. Now, this is something that really upsets me. I don't know how you feel about it, but I got a real problem with cops being able to resign and get their pensions after they murder somebody. I don't think they should be allowed to get those pensions. I mean, especially if they're found guilty of murder or, manslaughter or something like that. Why should they be allowed to get a pension for the rest of their life? That's just my personal opinion. Anyway, he resigned from the city police force 2 days after the shooting. After shooting Jefferson, and he was charged with murder and released on a $200,000 bond. Following the shooting, Fort Worth police released body camera footage that showed Dean walked around the side of the house, pushed through a gate into the fenced-off backyard, and fired through a window a split second after shouting at Jefferson to show her hands. Officer had gone to the house after a neighbor called a non-emergency line to report that the front door was open and it was well after midnight. Dean was not heard identifying himself as a police officer on the video. October 12th marked the 2-year anniversary of Jefferson's death, and her sisters are now demanding a judge set Dean's trial as soon as possible. It's not right to put her on the back burner because she deserves way more than this, Ashley Carr stated. She deserves the accountability and that we asked for. We asked for swift justice, and this is not swift at all. And that was a family that made that statement. So I'm not, I don't blame them, but, they have to also realize that this whole COVID situation kicked in. So that made cases all the way across the country kind of get put on the back burner. So here we go with another bad apple. Another bad apple alert. Michigan Senator John Bison faced assault charges after an incident with the nurse practitioner. Perv alert, perv alert, perv alert. Michigan State Senator John Bison faces misdemeanor assault charges after a nurse practitioner with Oaklawn Medical Group accused him of inappropriately touching her. Bison, a Republican from Battle Creek, Michigan, represents Calhoun, Berry, and Iona counties in the Michigan Senate. He was first elected to the Senate in 2018 after serving 4 years in the Michigan House of Representatives for the Michigan 62nd District. The incident in question occurred on October 14, 2021, at Oaklawn after hours expressed in Marshall, according to the report filed by the Marshall Police Department on August 17th. Bison's attorney declined to comment. Bison is scheduled for arraignment on January 19, 2022, according to the court documents. The nurse, 52-year-old woman, said Bison touched her inappropriately while she was going over medications with him in an exam room. Bison was the woman's second or third patient of the day, according to the report. He identified himself as John Bison and described his symptoms, and his nurse practitioner recommended an over-the-counter medication for him. According to the report, Bison told the nurse practitioner he didn't understand her medication recommendations, so he pulled up a picture on her laptop to explain. Bison was sitting on the exam table. The nurse practitioner told police that while she was explaining the medication, Bison put his right arm around her, placed his right hand on her waist, and pulled her toward his body. Bison then squeezed her waist with his right hand and told her he was a gynecologist. Wow. Bison had it. Wow. This guy's crazy, man. The nurse practitioner did not tell Bison no or stop when he grabbed her because she was shocked by the incident, according to the police report. Bison then asked the nurse practitioner to order specific medication for him, according to the police report. She refused, and Byron questioned her. The nurse practitioner told him that what he requested was not a medication for his diagnosis. He then questioned her decision and said he was disappointed in her. The nurse practitioner said Bison was visibly angry. He got off the exam table and said he was disappointed in her several times as he walked down the hallway and left the building. The nurse practitioner then told the medical assistant in Oaklawn what happened with Bison. That medical assistant told the nurse practitioner that Bison had touched her also and made inappropriate comments when she was taking his vitals during the same visit. In an interview with police, the medical assistant said the senator grabbed her arm and told her his blood pressure was up because she was in the room. Wow. Nurse practitioner filed a report with the Oaklawn about the incident on August 15th. When she had not heard back about the report by August 17th, she contacted Oaklawn's Human Resources Department and was told to call the police. The court records said the case was reassigned from Calhoun County Prosecutor's Office to Berry County Prosecutor's Office last month, and Bison will be tried for a misdemeanor according to the prosecution. So it's like, wow, man, this guy is something else, man. This guy here is just off the charts. He just like doing what he want to do, just like this next chump, DC chump. I'm getting ready to talk about DC chump, dunce, whatever you want to call it. So they have a Missouri paper that slams the DC dunce and his GOP enablers for condoning his efforts to violently overthrow an election. No matter how former President Trump sinks, most Republicans are afraid to say a word against him, even after he acted as an apologist for the January 6th insurrectionists who wanted to lynch then Vice President Mike Pence. DC Dunce, during an interview with ABC News, Jonathan Karl defended the indefensible. In an editorial originally published by St. Louis Post-Dispatch and republished by the South Florida Sun-Sentinel in November 15, stresses that anyone who condones the action of the insurrectionists who wanted to lynch a vice president should never, ever be president again. 5 Alarm. In a newly released interview, the editorial explains former President Trump was asked about the January 6th Capitol rioters who threatened to kill Mike Pence. Did Trump respond as any responsible adult would and condemn them of that threat? Of course not. Repeating his delusional claim that Pence could have overturned the election. Trump defended the rioters' fury at his vice president, calling it common sense. Wow. This guy's, man, a piece of work, man. You know what? I'm going to skip all the way to the bottom of this one. Poll after poll shows the D.C. dunce is still the front runner for 2024 GOP presidential nomination, and he has never garnered the majority support. Not in any reputable poll and not in either of his presidential elections, but as 2016 demonstrated, that doesn't mean he could not be seated again as president, and that's what everybody is dreading that it never happens. Wow. Telling you, man. Telling you. So here's another one. This is the different story. They have a political action committee that backed Trump in the 2020 election is again raising money in Iowa and claiming donations will benefit families of police killed in the line of duty. The scripted, pre-recorded solicitations emanate from the Law Enforcement for a Safety America Political Action Committee, although the calls are stated as coming from the Police Officer Support Association. Although the name of the organization and the pitch for donations are focused in supporting law enforcement, federal records indicate the organization has raised more than $14 million with none of that money directed to any governmental police agencies. Even the organization's political spending has been limited. Of the $14 million raised prior to 2021, just over $500,000, or less than 4% of the money donated, was spent on the support of candidates for federal office. The rest was consumed by fundraising, consulting, and office expenses. Wow, what a scam. What a scam. So far this year, the organization has raised $4.3 million. Telling you, man, what a scam, what a scam. These guys are something else. This is so-called PAC. So-called PAC, man, and what they're doing is they got in trouble. They got in trouble. So it says consumers who receive the calls often receive inappropriate, nonsensical responses to the questions or comments, and they filed a lawsuit. They filed a lawsuit. The phone call Zetlin uses to solicit PAC donations utilize soundboard technology so that consumers' questions and comments are responded to only through a set of pre-recorded messages deployed either by a computer or a person who is monitoring the conversation. The Federal Telephone Consumer Protection Act of 1991 prohibits the use of artificial or pre-recorded voices in financial solicitations. The law alleges that Zeitlin is openly and routinely violating the law. So there's a lawsuit alleges bogus and inflated expenses. So the lawsuit accuses professional fundraiser Richard Zeitlin of partnering with complicit political actions committees, including Law Enforcement for Safe America, and as its treasurer, Kevin, and using an array of bogus and inflated overhead expenditures to funnel millions of dollars in political donations into companies Zeitlin controls. So they just laundering money and just stealing money from all these people that call themselves Trump supporters. You're being bilked. You're being bilked. Your money's being stolen by the millions of dollars. But they continue to keep supporting the same stuff. You say, like W.C. Fields said, never give a sucker an even break. Okay, here we go, folks. This story here kind of hurt a little bit. You got basketball legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's son was sentenced for stabbing his neighbor with a hunting knife. An elderly neighbor stabbed after telling Adam Abdul-Jabbar to take the trash out. The son of basketball legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was sentenced to 6 months in jail for stabbing his neighbor with a hunting knife during an argument over trash cans. Adam Abdul-Jabbar, 29, stabbed 60-year-old Ray Windsor on June 9th after a dispute over trash in the shared driveway of their home in San Clemente, south of Los Angeles, and it turned violent. Mr. Windsor was stabbed in the back of the head, suffered a fractured skull, and nearly died from the loss of blood. Abdul-Jabbar pleaded guilty to 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon and 1 of carrying a dagger after striking a deal with the judge in Orange County. Abdul-Jabbar has been allowed to apply for home detention, and his sentence has been stayed until January. And wow, he said Abdul-Jabbar certainly became angry and threatened him, and then started stabbing him in the back of the head. And Mr. Windsor stated he was in critical condition, was left with several knife wounds. Prosecutors had sought a 7-year jail sentence and objected to the plea officer and the plea office. So, telling you, man, this is something else. A dispute over trash cans. A dispute over trash cans, man. Wow. That's something else, man. Yep. So here we go. So to the next story, the last story. They have a LA deputy tased a sick man and shot him with rubber bullets. Now, that man that got shot is suing their boss. Sheriff Villanueva encouraged unreasonable and excessive force in his scandal-plagued department, the lawsuit states, and with the lightning rod, LA County lawman has created an atmosphere within the LA County Sheriff's Department in which the violation of civil rights is not only approved by the department but encouraged. That's the stunning allegation at the heart of the new lawsuit against the LA Sheriff's Department filed by 2 black residents of Inglewood who claimed they were needlessly brutalized by department deputies. One by being tased and allegedly shot with rubber bullets, and the other kneed in the neck until he could not breathe. The civil suit was filed earlier this month in federal district court and seeks at least $5 million in damages, plus punitive and exemplary damages that would deter others from engaging in similar misconduct. Deputy Sheriff John Satterfield, a spokesperson for the sheriff, stated that the lawsuit, these unproven allegations, are false. But the incident in question occurred the morning of December 1st, 2020 in Inglewood, the suburb of Los Angeles, and a place where I lived for years, for decades. Anyway, that morning, Inglewood resident Larry Jefferson had been experiencing a mental health episode, according to his lawsuit against the sheriff's department. Jefferson's family had called 911 out of concern for his well-being, but nobody came to help. Later that morning, about 9 a.m., there was a car crash outside of the home of Christopher Chambers, Jefferson's brother-in-law, and the other plaintiff in the lawsuit. In the accident's aftermath, Jefferson stepped out into the street and began directing traffic around the crash. When LA Sheriff's deputies rolled up to attend to the accident, Jefferson's behavior was erratic. He did not follow directions to move out of the street, and the superintendent instead told police officers that he was not afraid of him. Jefferson was not armed, and the lawsuit insists he made no threatening gestures toward the deputies. Regardless, the lawmen swarmed out of their vehicle and not only tased Jefferson, the lawsuit claims, but shot him with rubber bullets. The less than lethal strike, as seen on the cell phone video posted the day after the incident, sent Jefferson sprawling to the pavement. Jefferson was left with severe road rash on his hands and his shoulders, and the lawsuit contends that Mr. Jefferson suffered great physical and emotional pain and continues to suffer fear, anxiety, and insomnia. Seeing his brother-in-law fall, Chambers ran to the street in his pajamas to tell the deputies that Jefferson was not, had mental issues and he wasn't in his right mind. According to the lawsuit, in response, as can be seen on the video, the three deputies tackled Chambers and forced him to the ground. One deputy had his knee on his neck. Mr. Chambers was not able to breathe, the suit says. In desperation, Chambers asking, "Is this how you treat the son of a police officer?" And the lawsuit contends Mr. Chambers believed that if he did not say that he was a police officer's son, he would have sustained serious injury or may have even died. The officers immediately pulled Chambers off the ground, the suit says, but still arrested him. Chambers was jailed for the night on charges of resisting arrest and assaulting of police officers, and the charges were later dropped. The lawsuit is filed against 10 unarmed sheriff deputies alleged to have used excessive force on Mr. Chambers and Mr. Jefferson's conduct. The suit claims was willful, wanton, malicious, and oppressive. But the suit also names and lays the blame for the deputy malfeasance at the feet of the sheriff, Villanueva. The litigation claims the sheriff created and worked to expand a violent environment within the LA Sheriff's Department, including and advocating for and rehiring former LA County Sheriff deputies who had been found to use unreasonable force and failed to use de-escalation. In fact, Villanueva was controversially sought to reinstate deputies previously fired by the department for misconduct, including for unjustified violence. A judge last year overturned one of Villanueva's rehirings as unlawful, involving a deputy who had been fired amid allegations of domestic violence and stalking of a fellow deputy. So this guy's out of control, man. Guy's got problems in LA. You have problems. Real problems. Wow. Anyway, they have a mandate. They have LA County has a mandate public employees for employees to be vaccinated, and Villanueva is refusing to enforce the LA County's mandate, and it says the order would deplete the ranks of his deputies, only about half of whom have gotten vaccinated. So this guy's off the charts, man. He's off the charts, off the chain. He's out of order. You're out of order. You're out of order and you're out of commission over there, man. You need to go. It's time for you to go, bro.
And you know what time it is?
It's time for you to go. That's what time it is. It's time for this guy to hit the highway. It's time for him to hit 100 on the highway and get on out of Dodge, because I don't know. I don't know, folks. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, man? This, the song, Bad Boy, Bad Boys, what you gonna do?
And you know what time it is? It's time for KP's Video News.
Call KP's Video News and let me know. KP's Video News, new mic.
KP's Video News.